Oh man, Fate is such a jerk. Fate always chooses me last for dodgeball. Thinks it's better than me. It thinks Lenny is better at dodgeball. I'm the best at dodgeball. We can definitely beat him now that he is cornered in his castle where he can be a dragon. I see no problems with this plan. Haha, I was expecting you to be dumbasses. Alright, so, as the intro said, the toughest part about this chapter is the fact that our units have been separated. And quite frankly, the groups are very small. And quite frankly, we've got a lot of guys to deal with right off the bat. So this is one of those chapters where the beginning is absolutely the hardest part of it. After you get everything under control, it gets a little bit easier, but until you do, you have to deal with tough units that are all going to charge you at once, so be prepared and hope luck is on your side, because if it isn't, well, bye. And of course, in the center of it all is Medius. He's got an Earthstone, and his stats don't look amazing at the moment, but do remember, he is going to get boosted by that Earthstone once he transforms. I already found him, he's in the center. It's like you don't even look at the preparation screen. Other than that alternate dimension where I sent you to an alternate dimension, in which case a lot of people died under your command. Oh well, that kinda comes out of nowhere. Godo's not really too fond of humanity. And yet here he's like, actually maybe you're not so bad, so I'm gonna join you now. It's a little bit odd that he said he washed his hands of humanity, considering, you know, he's also a human, but whatever, you know, that's his decision. Humans are allowed to not like humans. It's definitely a thing that happens. My family? Flashback time! Ah! Hey Marth, remember when your family fucking died? Wait, so he remembers when his sister sacrificed herself, but not actually when she came back, which was a fairly important moment. Also, he doesn't remember when his mother died. He doesn't bring that up? Because that's a pretty big moment. Oh hey, this dragon murdered my mother, but whatever, not gonna flash back to that. Not important enough. And bam, right off the bat, Medius transforms into a dragon. And now he's all super tough. So he's just going to be earth-dragging it up. But well, look what happens when you complete the Altar Spire. Oh. That's it? You're not really going to react to Nagi coming here? Alright, well. He does have a bit of a different speech, and I don't think he flashbacks, but yeah, you can also get Nagi if you go through the previous Gaiden chapter. However, that is instead of Goto, so either you can have an extra Divine Dragon, or you can have Goto. And, future me, would you like to bring up the character stats? And so, the final two characters are the ones who can escort you into the final area of the game. Goto here was cut from Book 1 of Mystery of the Emblem, but he's back in Shadow Dragon. He only has 2 levels to gain, but his stats are fairly good. If he did have more levels to gain, he'd actually be pretty decent, because he's got some good growth rates. However, his most important aspect is that he starts with a spell Swarm. Yeah, that's right, he can actually use that long-distance tome. So, he's gonna be pretty good at picking off enemies in this final chapter, which is what makes him pretty great overall. On the other hand, you have Nagi, who is also pretty good. Now, it's very useful to have both her and Tiki, since they're both Divine Dragons, meaning all dragons are weak against them. not only that, but Nagi's also got some really good growth rates as well, and her stats aren't too bad. Of course, the Divine Stone is going to be doing most of the work. She's also got 5 levels to gain before she hits her cap, which isn't bad either. So, either way, both characters are pretty good. But of course, since you have Tiki already, Goto might be slightly better if only because he has the range advantage. But hey, you know, again, second Divine Dragon, not bad. It seems he would, and he did. Well, he will. Not at the moment, though. But anyway, Goto's pretty useful because he has Swarm, and that's not really a spell you get normally, and it's a spell that also allows you to do something like this. And quite frankly, removing this obstacle right off the bat is something I so want to do, because those Ballistae are kinda relentless. So having him gone right now, very good. And of course we have Kane. Sadly, I didn't actually give him a Javelin, which would have been very useful. But, you know, I did kind of mess up there. And man, why didn't I go after that hero? That would have been a good idea. Maybe he has a long-distance weapon, I forget, but it would have helped out a little bit so he doesn't rush this group. And unfortunately, this didn't go so well, because Caster could not double, and he didn't get a critical hit. So thanks for that, pal. Really nice of you. This, on the other hand, went stupendously well. A 9% crit on something I really needed to get a crit on, because that Monoket is, of course, the most dangerous guy here. You know, everyone else, fairly tough as well, but I really needed him out of the way. And I especially needed him out of the way without anybody overly injured. I mean, Caster took a hit, but it's not too terrible. It's not too big a hit. And that's all we can do on this side. See what I mean about the groups being small? It was kind of luck that allowed me to do that, because if I didn't get that critical hit, I would have been in a lot of trouble. And unfortunately, that guy's pretty fast as well. But not fast enough to avoid Linde just absolutely destroying him. Oh yeah, and he's also got a Dragon Pike, so do be wary of that. Wouldn't want that stabbing you if you had a dragon. Though that being said, is Tiki over on the side? I think she is. Yeah, so I definitely wanted him out of the way. This guy, on the other hand, also very easy to take down, and his death means that I don't have to deal with Swarm, so yeah, that's yet another thing that is very worrisome if you can't deal with it right off the bat. So I guess basically what you want right at the start is all of your long-reaching units to be right here, like your Cavaliers and your Flyers and whatnot. All of your slower units can go at the bottom because they don't need to go as fast. They more so just need to hold their grounds and not die. Oh, and of course, until you get rid of all the Ballistae, this should be obvious, but you're also going to want to be wary of sending your Flyers in if you have more than one. If you don't have more than one, I would suggest having at least one. You can just use Iote's Shield, and then you don't have to worry about that one as much. And that takes care of things on this side, more or less, right? Anyone down there? So, right, it is basically the exact beginning that's the biggest problem here. Because as long as you're able to handle this, you can handle the rest of the chapter. Well, in fairness, 68 isn't that much, so I'm not too terribly surprised. And hey, this guy went for Hardened instead of, you know, anyone who would have actually been a bit more in danger overall. I mean, I guess Hardened took a fair bit of damage, but he's definitely not dying this round. And that was a waste of a Worm Slayer, but at this point, who cares? It's the final level. You can use as much as you want. Speaking of which, of course, before I did this chapter, I did use a whole lot of stat boosting items on people. I mean, if you've been paying attention, then maybe you'll notice differences between units from the last chapter, but if you don't care, which I'm sure most people aren't paying that close attention, then whatever, just know that I used all of the things that I bought. I didn't just let them go to waste. So, I guess since that's done, it's gonna be a while until we get to Medius, but when we do, I do have a few things that actually apply to Nagi. The weird thing about the final boss is I'm just gonna spoil this now, but he doesn't really have much dialogue. Like, Marth doesn't even speak to him. Marth, the main character of the game, facing off against the main villain, doesn't actually have anything special to say against Medius. I should probably stop saying that Shadow Dragon's writing is lazy because I've said that so many times, but it's still true, is the thing. Oh well. That being said though, he does have some special dialogue. If you fight him with Nagi, he will actually say something. I won't go into that just yet because I'm not going to bring that up until we get close to Medius. But it does actually help the, not really theory, it's... I mean, some people theorized about this a while ago, but honestly it's kind of obvious when you take the series as a whole into consideration, but basically Nagi is either an alternate dimension version, or a future version, or past version, or reincarnation, or whatever have you, of Naga. I don't think anyone's really mentioned Naga too much in this game, but I think it's happened at least once. Now, according to Fire Emblem Awakening, Naga isn't really a god in this series, only a very powerful Monokets, but nonetheless people kind of revere them as a dragon god, more or less. Now, I did refer to Naga as them because their gender is kind of unclear. I'm gonna guess it's that Naga is actually female because, well, Awakening more or less says so, but Naga has appeared a lot in the series. Well, I don't know if I'd say a lot, but fairly frequently. But Naga has appeared a few times, though, and in the earlier games, Naga is referred to as a male. Now, plot-wise, that could be because it's just the people being like, oh, well, we don't actually know who Naga is that well, so we're just gonna assume male. At the same time, I think it could be a genderless thing. Nonetheless, I think Nagi in this game is referred to as female, so I'm gonna go with that for the most part. But that being said, yeah, Nagi is, if not a reincarnation, then actually Naga or whatever. It never outright says who Nagi is, and in fact, because of that, for some reason people theorize that Nagi was actually Tiki for a while. I don't know how anybody actually thought that. I guess it's because, oh, you can only get Nagi if you let Tiki die, but that's just kind of silly. And quite frankly, Nagi doesn't look anything like Tiki. She definitely looks more like Naga. Though, I forget if Naga actually appeared until Awakening, like, visually. But if you look at the designs, that's definitely what they had in mind, and also because of Awakening we know what a future version of Tiki actually looks like, so that's impossible for Nagi to be Tiki. Well, I guess it's not impossible, but it's very, very unlikely that that's the case. Of course, the other thing is, have we really talked about Falchion much in this game? I'm trying not to give too much of the backstory away, because there's a lot we haven't actually seen. A lot more about the backstory is going to be revealed in Fire Emblem 12, New Mystery of the Emblem. Such as stuff like Anri. We've heard Anri mentioned here and there, but we've never actually really learned about what he's done in the story. We just know that Marth is one of his descendants. That being said, though, I think we know that Falchion was created from Naga's fang. I think we've heard that. At the very least, it's not too huge a plot point. And of course, in the previous chapter, we got a weaker version of the Falchion. So basically, that's another reason why it kinda has to be Naga and not Tiki, because as far as I know, Tiki's never had anything to do with the Falchion, other than that one time where I had her killed with it in her hands, but other than that, she's not really had anything to do with it. So basically, this other falchion was more than likely created by one of Naga's, or Nagi's in this case, fangs. Now, I don't know if she is a reincarnation of Naga or just a very weakened version of Naga, but the point that stands is she is definitely weaker than Naga, who, again, not a god, just a very, very strong Monarchette. Nonetheless, though, she is weakened, so this falchion, well, not this falchion, I don't have that version of falchion on this file, but that version of the falchion is a lot weaker. So that's the falchion. What else did I want to talk about? I think it was mostly just Naga, Nagi, and the falchion. Other than that, I've talked strategy. Again, at this point, it's pretty manageable. I mean, I guess walking around the hallway is kind of difficult, and we do want to get rid of this cleric right here, but other than that... Oh, actually, yeah, there are quite a few reinforcements. I feel I should mention that as well. Oh, and the doors close. I should mention that, in addition to everything else. So do be wary of where you leave your units. It's only the starting area that gets locked down, but in case anybody does get locked out, you're going to want a thief. However, there is a slight disadvantage. While those doors do lock, and enemies' reinforcements will come out, some of them are warriors, which you don't have to worry about. However, there are other units that are ballistae, which you do kind of have to worry about since they can fire from a distance and you won't be able to access them. But yeah, there they go. Now they've respawned, so we're going to want Beck and actually Godo as well. Godo's going to help out since Beck is a little underpowered and can't quite kill the ballistae in one hit. If he could, he'd be a lot more useful, and honestly, I probably should have given him some power drops or strength drops or whatever they're called. He really would have benefited from them. That being said, he's got Godo on his side, and I don't think too many ballistae really spawn on the other side. And if not, I can manage them. Of course, the other thing we have to worry about are the guys coming from the south. Now, initially dealing with these guys can be tricky, just because of the way this hallway is structured. It's just kind of awkward fitting the soldiers in, and a lot of guys are going to start spawning at this point. I think it's every other turn, if not every 3 turns, that they'll spawn in. So we're going to want to take care of them. So, for the time being, it's going to be Marth fighting his way into the throne room, and the rest of the army fighting their way to the reinforcements so they can take care of those guys. But once they actually get to their respective locations, it's easy enough. On both sides, the main problem is, of course, just reinforcements. Also, the fact that I haven't gotten a healer here yet. We're going to have to get Len on that job soon, because Marth might have the falchion, and that's really good against those dragons. The fact that they hit him first, not really helping. Alright, so, physics staff. There we go. Could do a little bit better on healing, but whatever. Right, so I guess I'll take care of more of these archers. I don't have to worry about them since Seda has Iot's shield, but I would prefer them dead just because they kind of take advantage of that choke point. And quite frankly, I don't want that, so down they go. Thank you, Becca, and thank you, Godo. That kind of almost rhymed, right? Okay, it was kind of forced, but whatever. I think part of the problem here is I also kind of put myself in an awkward position. I do kind of wish I was able to get Caster here without moving, who is that, Harden or Kane to the side, because that's a little bit of a waste of a turn. Kane, yeah. So yeah, waste of, well, I wouldn't say complete waste, but I would prefer to not doing that. I kind of wish I'd put Kane in the way, because quite frankly, he's pretty good at defending stuff. Actually, now that I think about it, I could have just put it in front of the dragon, couldn't I? Oh well, it's not really a mistake. I'm not going to sweat it too much. Past me, you're going to pay for this, I swear to God. And also, another good thing about me just having Marth and Seda over here is the fact that I'm kind of power leveling Marth accidentally, which might not be the best idea. I wouldn't want Medius to be a pushover. I mean, he's not exactly the toughest unit. He can attack from a distance, keep that in mind. In fact, I think if it's not 2 spaces away, it's actually 3 spaces away. I would have to move my cursor over him again, but he can be fairly tough, and of course he does a lot of damage. Earth Dragons in general are tough units. I don't think we've had to fight any, though. Medius is the first. They're pretty rare for some reason. Are they sleeping? Is that it? Are they sleeping like Tiki was? Oh well, who knows. I mean, the Fire and Mage Dragons, they've been quite awake for quite a while. And they've been a pain in our sides as well. But Earth Dragons, to be honest, I'm kinda glad we didn't have to face them earlier than this. I mean, imagine if, oh shoot, what was the first Monarchette unit we fought? Well, technically speaking, most Earth Dragons aren't even Monarchettes for reasons unknown. Cough cough. But at the same time, imagine if we had to fight one of them instead of the Fire Dragon Monarchettes. We probably wouldn't have survived, truth be told. And man, when I said power leveling, I meant power leveling. Seriously, I just have to stand there and all these dragons are just running into my sword. Not the best idea since, it is a sword made from a divine dragon's fang. And that's another thing about Naga, I didn't mention that. Naga is a divine dragon just like Tiki. And since she's a divine dragon, and she took one of her fangs and made Falchion out of it, that's why Falchion is so effective against dragons. 'Cause it's part divine dragon. Therefore, it kicks the butt of other dragons. Pretty useful like that. And man, speaking of dragons, those guys really didn't want you to be using dragons in this direction. Which, to be fair, that is pretty effective. Send the Cavaliers in first, try to kill Tiki so that she can't take down any of the Monarchettes. I mean, in fairness, you could also send Bantu, the real force to be reckoned with here. Even in jest, that just doesn't sound right. I mean, I kinda like Bantu, but, he just isn't a good unit, really. I mean, I guess in fairness, he must be pretty old. Because, of course, dragons in the Fire Emblem series have the whole, oh, well, you know, they look young for a long time and they live for millions of years and, you know, they don't die so easily. So, the fact that he looks so old, he's probably a really old dragon. This isn't actually a spoiler for Awakening because it's a very minor detail, but, Bantu is actually alive in Fire Emblem Awakening, so he must be even older there. Again, not a spoiler because he's not actually a character in that game. It's just now he sometimes has a little, not conversation, but I forget if it's for anything. I think it might just be like a miscellaneous line she can say. But she'll mention how she actually met another Monarchette. She just can't remember his name. But the names she lists are quite close to Bantu, so yeah, Bantu's around, and if you happen to get that dialogue a lot somehow, I guess he also travels a lot as well. I mean, if he has nothing else to do, that's kind of understandable. But yeah, apparently Bantu will live for a long time, and keep in mind, Fire Emblem Awakening happens like thousands of years after this series does. All the characters from these games, Marth and all his pals, they're long dead. But Bantu, no, he's fine. He's A-OK. Well, I don't know about A-OK. Maybe he's a sickly dragon. Now he doesn't mention that, just that she meant somebody. That's a Monarchette. Wow, so remember when Marth was underleveled? This sounds like some sort of weird exercise fad. I used to be a level 15 unit, but how did I get so buff, you might ask? Well, you'd be surprised, but I actually got this buff by doing nothing at all. That's right, It's the stand still exercise craze that's sweeping the nation. Hi, I'm Marth. Once I was a wimp. I can't promote, so I go to level 30. But quite frankly, for a while, I was only level 15. That's right, half my potential. And yes, that's right, I can count. But thanks to this new standstill exercise, I'm a buff level 30 character, and I have 3 maxed out stats. Want to learn how you could do it? Well, just stand still, and everything will be fine. Oh geez, okay, yeah, that's not going to work at all. Alright, I keep forgetting that that guy has a dragon pike. All the guys that spawn there have a dragon pike. I should probably remember that before I accidentally get Tiki killed by some stupid mistake. That would be very bad. Alright, well, now that we're pretty much in this courtyard, which for some reason has a shop, I don't know why this is here, or how. Alright, I'm going to destroy humanity. Oh, but that lady's opening a shop in my front lawn. I guess I'll allow that. I don't know, maybe the implication is that's somebody in Marth's army that set up outside, but I don't know, it seems like we came from the north. Except no, we also came from the south as well. Only a few of the units came. I don't know how this castle works. It's kind of structurally very weird. Oh well, anyway, I guess at this point we'll slowly start sauntering in to take care of the Monarchette. And of course we'll also take care of the most important Monarchette of all, Medius. Yeah, that's right, we're slowly moseying on towards Medius for the final battle. But, you know, casually. And I guess if you really need door keys or vulneraries, which you shouldn't, that's all they sell there. No wonder I forgot about that shop. It doesn't sell anything important. Wow, level 28. Is he really going to reach max level just right at the final chapter? Wait, what level did he even start at? I forget. It was probably like 10 levels lower, though. He is seriously getting buff in this one chapter alone, but I guess that's what happens when you exclusively fight Monarchettes. Also, to be honest, I probably should have gone for the other guy, but then again, Critical Swarm. That happens sometimes. Hopefully you'll never see an enemy do that, but it can happen. So do be wary of that. I mean, in fairness, it's so infrequent, and most of the enemies that do use it don't really have much of a critical hit potential, but nonetheless, it's a possibility. Maybe it's a thing that happens often on hard modes. I don't usually play those. Alright, so unless something else spawns, wink wink, we should be fine to just saunter on in there and take on Medius. Oh, darn it. Yeah, of course, this was a spawn turn, so we're not quite done yet. Oh, Thunderbolt broke. It doesn't matter too much. We're at the final level, and those guys can't really do much to me anyway. I mean, the other one can attack Beck because he's also a ballista, but other than that, it's all good. I really doubt it's going to kill me anyway. And now all these guys are surrounded, so really they shouldn't have bothered coming out of bed this morning. It was a bad idea. What, intruders in the castle? Alright, let's serve Lord Medius well. Everybody attack! Oh, crap, they're right here. Maybe we should go back and eat breakfast first, and if Lord Medius is still alive, then we'll come to his aid, yeah. You know, one thing that always confused me is why dragon pikes don't actually work on wayward knights. You'd think it would. They ride dragons. Oh well. Even if it doesn't make much sense, it does actually work to my advantage, so that I don't have to risk myself like that. I can attack them with dragon knights, like Minerva or Seda. Well, Seda's not here at the moment. She's helping Marth, because they do have a support bonus. Also, I just realized, did I ever mention that some support bonuses are only one way? I don't know if I did. I mean, I was talking about... Ooh, geez, that's not good. Did not position myself well there. But I don't think I actually did mention that. That's one of the other dumb things about Shadow Dragon. Not only can you not really have that many supports and there are no support conversations, but sometimes supports are only one way. Like, I think Ogma supports Board, but Board doesn't support Ogma? Is that it? It's something like that. And unfortunately, this persists in Fire Emblem 12 as well. Some supports are only one-sided, and I honestly really don't get that. It doesn't really seem like it's a good idea. And hey, Martha's now maxed out. Well, alright then. Hey Medius, I hope you don't mind, but apparently I just accidentally power-leveled Marth. This might interfere with your evil plans just a tiny little bit. I know you really wanted to kill humans, but in the span of like half an hour, Marth just got really buff off killing dragons with the Falchion. To be honest, I'm surprised too. Alright, so I believe we're going to heal up, and then next turn I'm going to show off the extra... Oh, wait, nope, it's right here. So, here's the dialogue where Nagi fights Medius. So yes, it seems that Nagi is a reincarnation of Naga, because Medius is actually familiar with her, and recognizes her power, except apparently she's nowhere near as powerful as she once was, which kinda makes sense considering Naga was such a kick-ass dragon. She probably would have no problem just absolutely taking down Medius, where she wouldn't quite curb stomp him here. Alright, this is it, the final battle, Marth vs. Medius. And we dodge, and we kill him. Yep, that's it. Maybe that would have been a little more difficult if I hadn't given Marth a few stat-increasing items, or he didn't get so buff just by killing dragons, but yeah, we kind of just easily killed Medius, and he's doing the whole, oh, well, as long as humans are still evil, I will return. Oh no, I am now dead. I'm exploding. Oop, down I go. You know, he never once was a shadow dragon, right? Nobody's gonna notice that. He's an earth dragon. I mean, earth dragons are powerful. So, you know, I think Fire Emblem Earth Dragon would have been a fine title for the game. Yeah, like an entire second game for him. Yeah, I know, it's because there are no support conversations. It sucks, right, Seda? Ouch. Oh, Marth, you are so unbelievably dense. "5 hours later. Oh, Marth, you don't know anything about love, unlike me, whose lover was kind of an idiot and got himself killed despite my begging him not to fight you. My love life is in shambles, but at least I had one." I haven't had once for this entire game. And then sometimes you just have to murder somebody else's lover. Not that I'm bitter about that or anything. I didn't just think about that just now. That was totally what I meant all along. I didn't just write this down 40 seconds ago. What are you talking about? Was it really the Tale of Falchion? It didn't even come into play until like 3 chapters before the end. Oh no, Falchion is gone. Years later, okay, we got Falchion back. Alright, and here we'll get a summary of all the chapters. I probably would have included the Gaiden version here because, of course, you know, we're not going to see how many turns it took to complete those. It wouldn't be many. But at the same time, I would prefer, you know, my actual times that I got for most of this playthrough, so a few of these will be missing, but, you know, for the most part it's complete. Now, alternatively, I also have the Gaiden credits available on my non-commentary channel, in case you want to see what pain looks like. But I think I included this little section there, so in that case you can actually see how many turns it took me to complete the Gaiden chapters. Spoilers, it's not many. Wow, One Cavalry only took 19 minutes? That's a short chapter. No wonder they cut it out of Mystery of the Emblem Book 1. It also took half an hour to free Altia. Wait, Sable Order seriously took almost 40 minutes? That seems like it took more time than it actually did. Now, Camus the Sable, that I can understand. That went on for a while. Alright, how long did this take? 50 minutes! Oh man! I am so glad I speed these videos up, because holy crap, 50 minutes of that! I mean, the beginning is panic-inducing, but the rest I had under control. Very under control. I had it so under control that I kind of just absolutely destroyed Medius. And here, of course, as per Fire Emblem tradition, we will be seeing what happens to a lot of the characters after the war is done. Now, this game kind of acknowledges that there'll be a sequel, even though the sequel never came out outside of Japan, so a few of these might actually kind of lead off into that game, while there are unfortunately a lot of others that are just like, we never heard from them again. I really wish it didn't do that with so many characters. It does it with a lot more in Fire Emblem 12, though, which really sucks. They're just a bunch of characters where it's like, oh yeah, they were never seen or heard from again. They just disappeared without a trace, which I don't really like. It just feels really lazy for an epilogue to say, oh yeah, we don't know what happened to them either. Could at least put a little thought into it. But since the credits are going at the same time, I suppose this is where we're going to wrap things up. So, originally, I was going to do this in closer proximity to Final Fantasy III. In fact, this is actually supposed to be done before Final Fantasy III, and I was going to compare the two. You know, Final Fantasy III and Shadow Dragon are both games which are remakes, but they're not the best remakes. But I feel like between the two, Shadow Dragon's a little better as a remake. I know I've complained a lot about the writing in this game, and it's not good. They could have actually put a lot more effort into it. But as an actual remake, if you compare this to the original game, oh man, it is so much better. And heck, it's even a little bit better than Book 1 of Mystery of the Emblem. Though, to be fair, Mystery of the Emblem was also leaps and bounds ahead of the original game, because, again, NES RPG wasn't really all that impressive, not fun to play, and just a mess in general. Of course, even still, Mystery of the Emblem didn't have the weapon triangle yet. That wouldn't be introduced for another game, but nonetheless, it was still a fair bit better. But this keeps the content that was originally cut for Mystery of the Emblem, and while they're not the best chapters, it's nice to have them there. I really wish they had rebalanced things a lot more than they had. They did manage to bring the game up to date for the most part, but they still missed a lot of things. Now, admittedly, as I've said before, I think it was already on a downward trend, which I don't necessarily blame on Shadow Dragon, because Radiant Dawn, art-wise in comparison, I never liked it quite as much as Path of Radiance, and of course that was also the game where support conversations were less important. So I think that was already trending downwards, and Shadow Dragon was kind of just the bottom of the barrel by coincidence. It's not so much that it's a bad game on its own, because ignoring the sort of downward trend, it's decent enough. It's just, it happened to take the brunt of all that, and as such it was very unpopular, for good reasons. But as remakes go, it's decent enough, and again, better than Final Fantasy III, where they didn't really make much of an effort at all. Here, gameplay is at least a little more up to standard. They did add the whole reclassing system. Now, that was the first time that appeared in the series, to my knowledge. Fire Emblem Awakening did do it better, and I'm sure Fates will as well, but at the same time, it's not good in this game. Characters are just not balanced to sort of have that class change, so there are a few units that are decent if they kind of match up to those class changes stats, but other than that, you really can't play around, and without the skill system from Awakening, there's not much of a point in actually using it, because skills make it worthwhile using other classes, because, oh man, mixing and matching everything is so fun. You do have a more limited class pool, which I think helps Awakening, because you only had like 3 classes to choose from for each character, except for the Avatar, which got basically all of them. A few were missing, depending on your gender, but for the most part they got almost all of the classes. Here, though, there is just a pool, like everyone can be a Cavalier, or a Cleric, or an Archer, or a Mercenary, or whatever. And I don't think that works out as much. I think it's much better when they kind of balance each character individually, and then say, okay, this might fit into this kind of class, or this kind of class. It just works a lot better like that. So, this suffers from being the first where they actually introduced the system, and it's kind of pointless and not really fun or interesting in this game. And oddly enough, I'm still comparing this to Final Fantasy III, but unlike Final Fantasy III, where they had better examples of the job system by that point, they should have used that. And as for the rest of it, as I've said before, gameplay-wise, kind of up to date, not quite there. They could have added a few more things. Chapter-wise, pretty decent. I like a lot of the maps. They're not the best maps, but they're fairly good. As for the music, it's alright. I've never been a huge fan of Fire Emblem music. It doesn't stick out too much in my mind, other than like a few songs per game. And this game has those few songs. There's, of course, Together We Ride. The song that I don't remember the name of when you face Camus and Michaelis. I did know that for a while, but I've forgotten it again. That's actually a really good song. It just almost never plays. You know, it's all good music, so nothing really bad there. I have, of course, gone over writing many, many times, and I've gone over graphics many, many times. I think it's a very dull art style, and, you know, I really wish they'd kept closer to the Game Boy Advance games. You know, I always found it weird, and I might have mentioned this before in the earlier parts, how Castlevania looks all anime-ish and cartoony, and even Order of Ecclesia, which definitely looks a little less than anime-y than Dawn of Sorrow or Aria of Sorrow, whichever one was the DS one, or Portrait of Ruin. Those look pretty anime, Order of Ecclesia less so, but it still has a much better art style than these games, which I feel like if this was touched up at least a little bit, would look better, would actually be fitting for Castlevania. And yet Castlevania has an aesthetic that I think would be very fitting for Fire Emblem, so kind of weird how it just seems like a weird mismatch for those DS games. But yeah, point I'm trying to make here is, doesn't look that good. I went over the kind of weird perspective thing in whichever chapter was Castle Helena. Sometimes characters are just facing the camera, except also to the side a little bit. Others are turned. It's just weird and kind of inconsistent. It's mostly inconsistent with, like, the enemies, but it's still inconsistent nonetheless, and it's very noticeable. Other than that, very dull. Characters aren't that expressive, which I think definitely hurts it. Sometimes they smile a little bit, but for the most part, art-wise, it's fairly standard. Nothing that's really too expressive or interesting. And I think I've more or less covered all I can about this, and since that's just about it for Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, before I sign off, I would like to say, according to my schedule, apparently this releases on February 19th, so, happy Fire Emblem Fates Day, everybody. I hope you got the game. I probably will as well. At least I hope I will. Anyway, yeah, that's a bit of a coincidence. So, I guess that's it for Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time for whatever I do next.